Maybe be a base or even a back spot. Yeah, how's your flexibility? I don't know. Where to play here? What are you doing tonight? Nothing. Yeah. Why don't you come over for a sleepover?
I just wanted to say thank you so much for helping me out earlier at practice today. What exactly is going to happen during the sleepover?
I was really hoping to hook up with Ava at the sleepover tonight.
Where are the other girls? And the other girls can't make it.
Harlow, if you want to hook up with Ava, you know you've got to move fast, right? Like, she's already talking to Liana.
So, why don't you come cuddle with me? You look cold. Yeah. Where should I sleep tonight?
Right here, silly.
In our same beds?
Oh, yeah.
So...
Well, of course. Would you care if maybe we just, like, stayed the night here?
I mean, if we can't go to the sleepover, you might as well.
All the girls on the squad are lesbians. That's why we all have sleepovers. It's secret code.
Look at yourself. You're beautiful. You just have to have a little more confidence in building experiences. Like, I just feel like it'd be so hot to have you, like, boss me around. Sure, let's deal with it. Do you want to try? Everyone's gonna love you because you're freaking amazing, dude. And you're, like, so hot. So, once you get her alone, I don't like her, really.
We're here together, so we don't have anything to worry about. I guess you're right.
Scene. One functions as a carefully staged introduction to the film's broader thematic project, using the seemingly ordinary setting of a college cheer practice and subsequent sleepover to explore how emotional intimacy, recognition, and desire often emerge through socially sanctioned forms of closeness between women, particularly within environments that normalize physical proximity and emotional dependence, while remaining uneasy about explicitly naming lesbian feeling. And the scene opens with Aubrey's arrival into an already established social structure, immediately situating her as both an insider and an outsider, someone technically welcomed yet still negotiating belonging, which mirrors the experience of many queer women entering new communities where acceptance is conditional and mediated through performance, competence, and likability. And the early dialogue about positions on the cheer squad, bodies, weight, and flexibility, is not merely logistical but symbolic, revealing how women are trained to evaluate themselves and each other through metrics of usefulness and physical conformity, even as they long for affirmation that transcends those measures. And Gracie's reassurance that there are multiple ways to belong subtly resists the rigid hierarchies that often govern women's spaces, offering a gentler vision of inclusion grounded in encouragement rather than competition. And this moment of validation establishes Gracie as a figure of informal mentorship, someone who understands the unspoken rules yet chooses to soften them, a role that carries both comfort and complexity within queer readings, as mentorship can easily blur into emotional intensity that is difficult to name without risking misinterpretation or social consequence. And Aubrey's openness about her disrupted transition into college life, including her abrupt start and sense of displacement, underscores the vulnerability that accompanies new beginnings, particularly for young women whose identities are still in flux and who may already feel pressure to appear adaptable and grateful rather than uncertain or overwhelmed. And Gracie's affirmation of Aubrey's presence, framed as genuine admiration rather than obligation, creates a moment of recognition that resonates deeply within lesbian experience, where being seen by another woman can feel simultaneously affirming and destabilizing, especially when such recognition arrives unexpectedly and without the familiar scripts provided by heterosexual romance. And as the conversation moves from practice logistics to personal history, the scene emphasizes how intimacy between women often develops through shared disclosure rather than overt pursuit, allowing emotional closeness to feel natural, even inevitable, while remaining safely coded as friendship or team bonding. And this coding reflects a broader cultural pattern in which women's emotional labor and closeness are encouraged so long as they remain legible as non-threatening, a dynamic that queer women learn to navigate carefully, calibrating their expressions of care to avoid scrutiny or mislabeling. And the stretching sequence, framed explicitly as support and assistance, further illustrates how touch between women can be both normalized and charged, existing in a liminal space where intention is ambiguous and meaning is negotiated internally rather than declared. And the dialogue's emphasis on comfort, permission, and adjustment highlights an ethic of care that contrasts sharply with dominant narratives of desire rooted in conquest or certainty, suggesting instead that intimacy emerges through attentiveness and responsiveness, qualities that many women are socialized to provide yet rarely experience reciprocated. And when Gracie inquires about boyfriends, the question operates less as curiosity than as a cultural checkpoint, an assumption that heterosexual attachment is the default explanatory framework for a young woman's life. And Aubrey's response, focused on academic pressure and exhaustion rather than romantic loss, subtly resists this framing, opening space for alternative narratives of fulfillment and priority, and Gracie's dismissal of boyfriends as distractions delivered casually can be read as both playful and revealing, hinting at a subculture where women's primary emotional investments lie with one another, even if this arrangement is not fully articulated or examined. And this moment speaks to how queer desire often circulates within women's spaces as humor, critique, or shared understanding, allowing participants to acknowledge distance from heterosexual norms without explicitly declaring a different orientation. And the invitation to socialize beyond practice, framed as group bonding and community, reinforces the importance of chosen family within queer contexts, where connection is built through repeated, informal gatherings that blur the boundaries between friendship, support, and affection. And the sleepover itself functions as a symbolic threshold, a return to a culturally feminized space associated with adolescence, vulnerability, and confession, yet recontextualized within adult life as a site where women continue to negotiate closeness and trust. And Aubrey's tentative questions about where to sleep and what is expected of her underscore her awareness of unspoken norms, reflecting the careful boundary reading that many queer women practice in order to remain respectful and safe while still seeking connection. And Gracie's easy reassurance, grounded in communal habit rather than exclusivity, offers comfort without coercion, modeling a form of intimacy that is inclusive rather than possessive. And the shared viewing of cheer media within the scene serves as a meta-commentary on representation, allowing the characters to reflect on how their own experiences diverge from exaggerated portrayals. And this reflexive moment invites the audience to consider how media both shapes and distorts women's understanding of themselves, particularly in contexts where their relationships are either trivialized or sensationalized. And the gradual shift toward rituals of care, such as massages framed explicitly as relaxation and recovery, highlights how women are often encouraged to attend to one another's bodies and stress in ways that are nurturing yet rarely recognized as emotionally significant. And this normalization of care work within women's relationships can function as both a refuge and a concealment, providing real comfort while obscuring deeper longing that lacks socially acceptable language. And Aubrey's consent and curiosity throughout these exchanges are treated with respect, emphasizing that desire, when it appears, is intertwined with trust and safety rather than impulse. And the discussion of games and play, presented as optional and communal, further illustrates how exploration often occurs within frameworks that diffuse responsibility and risk, allowing participants to attribute actions to context rather than intention, a strategy that queer women have historically used to navigate environments that punish direct expression. And the scene's careful pacing, with frequent pauses and check-ins, reinforces the idea that emotional readiness is not assumed but assessed collaboratively, reflecting a relational ethic that prioritizes mutual comfort over momentum. And when expressions of admiration and excitement surface, they are embedded within encouragement and affirmation rather than objectification, maintaining a tone that centers emotional connection and self-recognition rather than spectacle. And Aubrey's gradual relaxation and engagement suggest a process of becoming visible to herself through another woman's attentive presence, a dynamic that resonates strongly within lesbian narratives where self-understanding often emerges relationally rather than independently. And Gracie's role as both guide and peer introduces questions of power and responsibility, particularly within settings that involve experience disparities or informal authority. Yet the scene resists framing this dynamic as exploitative by emphasizing transparency, consent, and shared vulnerability. And this nuanced portrayal invites viewers to consider how queer women navigate mentorship and attraction simultaneously, often without clear cultural scripts to separate or integrate these roles. And the repeated emphasis on checking comfort and nervousness underscores the legitimacy of hesitation, framing uncertainty not as weakness, but as an honest response to unfamiliar possibility. And this framing challenges dominant narratives that equate desire with certainty, offering instead a vision of intimacy grounded in patience and care. And the scene's conclusion, rather than resolving the relationship or labeling it definitively, leaves the characters within a moment of mutual awareness and tentative openness, reflecting the ongoing nature of self-discovery and connection. And this refusal of closure aligns with the film's broader resistance to simplistic narratives of queer awakening, acknowledging that visibility and authenticity are processes shaped by context, relationship, and timing. And for lesbian and queer women viewers, the scene offers recognition of familiar dynamics, the coded gestures, the careful language, the comfort found in women's spaces that both shelter and complicate desire. And for women more broadly, it speaks to the universal longing for environments where one's full self can emerge without pressure to perform or explain. And by treating these interactions with seriousness and restraint, the film critiques a culture that either erases women's love for one another or reduces it to spectacle, insisting instead on its emotional depth and ethical significance. And Scene 1 thus establishes the anthology's central commitment to portraying women's relationships as sites of truth, care, and becoming, affirming that what unfolds between women, whether named or not, carries meaning worthy of attention, respect, and thoughtful representation.